Welcome to another episode of the Decoding Cross-Border Ecommerce podcast. And I'm in a suit, which is rare. And I'm here with Igor Smelyansky. Did I get that?
Who's in the suit also?
Not usually wearing a suit.
Not wearing a suit.
Well, we're here at the Universal Postal Union Congressional Congress, right?
That gives us an excuse.
Yes, it does. It does. Well, you look sharp in a suit, and no one recognizes me in a suit. Oh, back home at the office. So, Igor, you're the CEO of Ukrposhta.
Yep, Ukrposhta. Ukrainian Post.
Okay, Ukrainian Post. And well, I'm excited to talk with you. One, because we're working together currently and having shipments come to the United States, which I want to talk about. But two, I just want to learn about you and your journey into CEO of Ukraine Post, which I'll probably, say that every once in a while too. Just easier to say. And your experience just with the war and everything else. And we were talking about some just recent things that are going on. But how about let's start first with you. Grew up in Ukraine, but you have family in New York.
I moved to New York, work in a restaurant in the Chelsea Pierce parking, work in a restaurant on Broadway. I did my first degree at Pace University, downtown New York. In public accounting, work actually on the 101st floor of the World Trade Center with Cantor Fitzgerald.
Really?
Resigned, went to work with KPMG, and then basically on September 11th, which is close to what our podcast. Entered GW Law School and Georgetown MBA, and I was driving to school when the plane hit Pentagon. So. I graduated Georgetown MBA, GW Law, worked with Boston Consulting Group, KPMG, M&A Group, and then, they called me to offer an opportunity to run a postal service in Ukraine. I thought, how bad could it be? My wife thought I would last about 6 months. After that, I would probably get fired. But I said, you should always try some crazy things.
Yes.
And so I actually thought I could do all the reforms in 2 years. I had a list of 10 things I planned to do. I actually did 9. I had not.
Really?
I did 9. I had not.
Within 2 years, you did 9?
No.
Okay.
That took much longer. So the last one is actually launching a bank. So hopefully I will have that completed and then I can resign.
Oh, wow. So you still have a bank on the list.
I have a bank. We actually, Ukrposhta just received top 3 awards, Rising Star Awards with UPU.
Yeah, saw that.
As the most improved service. And we are close to 100 on all 3 dimensions. And the last 4th is like 25 points out of 100 because we're missing the financial inclusion piece. So we have to add. We did launch pharmacy during the war to deliver medicine to people at the remote locations because, with the medical supplies, it's difficult. We obviously do a lot on the export side. We teach people how to sell on Amazon, eBay, and Etsy because sometimes they're afraid. They have really good products, but we need to take that fear away. So we have the entire school put online for free. We even now teach veterans how to sell, which is why it was so important for us to keep flying. So that's pretty much in short about me.
That is a lot to unpack over the past 26 years, or since 9/11. Yeah, you've had so you came through a finance background.
And legal, so that was easier to sign our agreement since I'm a New York. I'm a New York attorney. It was
that's why we moved so fast.
Yes, exactly.
That was great.
You don't need to get lawyers involved.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, it was one of the fastest moving agreements that we had. And we had to get creative too, because with the airlines and trying to work together in
we have currency restrictions because, the reason we had to do it, because in Ukraine, during the war, there are currency restrictions as to what you can get out of the country.
Yep.
We are now working to get one, but, so for us to sign, we created a creative, let's say, structure of our deal.
Yes,
and thanks again to your team for working with us to make it happen.
Well, I think you guys know how to adapt, and that was very obvious as we were working together. You were able to figure things out and get creative, and also just kind of point out things to us that we could, do to get things to work. So maybe actually, let's, and then we'll maybe talk about some of the stories of being the CEO of
Ukraine Post.
Ukraine Post. I mean, I keep thinking, every time you say it, I'm like, I can say that. And then I apparently can't. So about, this was July 30th, I believe, is when the executive order came out, where the administration, Department of Commerce had gotten together and said, they're removing the de minimis into the United States, which was $800 US, and which most of our listeners are probably aware of at this point. And for the commercial stream, it was actually not that disruptive because
they have processes in place.
They have processes in place to collect duties. In fact, the only reason that de minimis didn't remain suspended back in February or so was because at first they tried to remove it for Canada, Mexico, and China. And all the packages started to pile up.
Through different other channels?
Yes, yeah. And it was all the postal channels. So, Customs and Border Protection have, at each entry point, like one person that's assessing duties.
Because historically, it was like only 2% of parcels.
Yeah, it's over $800. And I don't even know if they did it on everything over $800. They just got to what they got to. So this was really problematic. And one of the things that came in the executive order was the ability to work with a qualified party. And so Zonos, we were working, around the clock to get ready for this, and became a qualified party. And then we started talking to Ukraine I think, middle of August, I believe.
I think August 12th.
August 12th. Okay. And then I would love to hear from your side of the story, how you heard it when you heard about the executive order, and what was your mandate to your team that made it so you were able to move so fast. And I think you had the first shipment into the United States actually on a plane of any post.
Exactly.
Operator.
Yeah, we are
and
proud.
Romo was ready. They were ready, but I think you had the first actual shipments on a plane.
Look, we're about 25% of our revenue is export international.
Oh wow.
We have more than 45,000 small and medium enterprises selling on Amazon, Etsy, and eBay. Just to give you an idea, on Etsy there is 1.7 million SKUs from Ukraine.
Jeez.
1.7. So your listeners can check it. They can just go to Etsy, tick Ukraine, and you will see how many products. They're all handmade. This is like most popular is fashion, things for the dog, like stuff for the dogs and for the cats.
Yeah. Made in Ukraine.
Made in Ukraine. They're all handmade, made in Ukraine. We really value these people. I mean, there are some amazing stories. When the war started, I went to Kharkiv, which is, close to Russia. And the sirens just went off. And this woman comes into the branch, recognized me, took a selfie, and I see the box, and she's like, "So what are you shipping?" And she said, "Well, I am doing handmade wedding glasses, and I'm selling it on Etsy, and because you're flying, I can maintain 5 families." So, and there are stories like this. You understand why we need to fly and why we cannot just stop, because we understand once we're stopping, these people lose their rating on the stores. Not just stop flying, but even delaying the. We resume flying 1 week after the full-scale invasion because all airports had to stop, so we don't have any airports working. But in a week, we design sort of the route through Poland.
I was wondering how you were doing that. So
through Poland, we chartered planes and took the parcels to the U.S. and took humanitarian aid from the U.S. on those planes, so they're not flying back empty.
Amazing! Yeah,
and we had to deal also because at that point, U.S. also was very cautious. Is it a military equipment, like for example, armor or not? So there's lots of custom duties and stuff we had to deal with. So, but that's was at the beginning of the war. Now we have different routes. We signed deals with DHL, Lufthansa. So our average time door to door from Ukraine to the US, if we work as we plan, now is about 5 to 8 days.
That is fast.
We have 24 hours turnaround time in Ukraine. We have daily truck to London and to Frankfurt. We pre-sort for airports in the US, so it gets closer to where it has to go, and then it gets delivered. So thanks to our cooperation, I said the team, look, I don't care how the hell you're going to do it, but we're not going to stop. And obviously, I did use my sort of legal expertise to design sort of the structure, knowing the limitations. We had to work around this. And At the end of the day, we just made it happen. And my sort of direction to the team was, look, there is no way we can stop flying. So it's an issue of risks. And it's an issue of the structure, but we're just going to keep flying and just keep that in mind. And then let's work through the potential scenarios.
Well, let me tell you how impressive this is, because we had, so Royal Mail was on top of it, right? Canada Post was on top of it, Australia Post. And these are big posts, right? And it's a big lane. And then there was Ukraine, and just the speed at which you moved. And it makes sense with the agreement, right? With your legal background. Because I remember when the team came and they said, look, we need to do this for the agreement. And our in-house counsel was like, wait, what? Like it took a while for us to wrap our head around.
But you have a pretty quick turnaround time.
Yeah. Well, I think we both were working all day.
Well, I don't have sort of the management board. I am the single executive body of the company, which is always challenged on the corporate governance front. At one point, I had like 69 direct reports. But I said, look, that's the only way. You have to make big decisions. They can be wrong. I'm a live person in the war. Sometimes it's in a matter of life and death. Every day make decisions. Are we going somewhere or we don't? We're going and can get killed, or we don't, and people stay without food or medicine or money. When Russia blew up the dam in Kherson region, we get the boats. And just literally took the boats to people's houses because they were all around the water, and then Russia tried to bomb by the drones the boats. So again, that's like the hardest part about the job, making decisions about life and death. Everything else in comparison is after that is a relatively easy decision.
Yeah, those are tough decisions. I can't even imagine the trade-off of medicine and then safety. And so in fact, when we started before the podcast today, you were saying that there was a truck that was bombed. And how many?
They killed 20 people. We actually, we have 4,400 stationary branches, and we have about 2,000 movable branches. So we cover 100% of the country. The movable branches allow us to reach every single village, and if there's like 3 people living, and then also allows us flexibility. If, for example, in the morning we receive information from our military that we'd better not go someplace, we can quickly adjust and let's say go next day or the day after. So we're trying to build elaborate sort of security schemes to work in as safe as possible. There is no things as safe, right? So we got one of the employees killed before her wedding in Lviv. Lviv is on the border with Poland, so that's probably the safest place there is. But Russia sent a rocket, and it hit the building on the border with Poland. So safety becomes a relevant term. You also need to understand psychology of people. So if in the first months of the war they would all go into shelters, after 6 months, no one goes. I mean, you just feel psychologically, it's hard, and I'm not going to push them because it's, I do sometimes, but it's, they said, well, what are the chances? But the chances are 100% we're going to screw up our lives, so we'll just go on. So it's a modern war. You have to learn how to adapt. We now even use predictive scenarios to know when to sort the parcels to the US, because we usually would sort them at night, but at night Russia shoots more often than during the day. And for example, they most of the time shoot on Monday morning. So we're trying to arrange the shifts so we can still keep the trucks on time, but we put bigger volumes when there are less chances that the team will spend half a day in a bomb shelter.
And I thought I was reading online, you're still growing, right? As a business?
It's a business. I mean, for international, for example, for the import, we grew about 25%.
That's unreal.
For export, we also grew like 10 to 12%.
Why is that the case? How are you doing that?
Well, as I mentioned, we're teaching people how to. So we're growing the business.
You're growing the business by helping the population actually learn how to
sell,
and self-sufficient entrepreneurs, things like that.
And because we were fast with you now, our sellers probably will take up the places of the sellers from other countries.
That's actually a very good point.
And that's what I told them. My approach is, my wife said I probably would get fired in the US as a CEO for that approach to communication. But I was honest with our sellers. Says, look, we need to raise our prices to compensate for the costs.
Right.
But you have an opportunity to take up more market share if you continue to fly. So on average, you'll be winning, and we'll be winning. So
and Ukraine has a lower reciprocal tariff than some other countries, right? So even Canada has a higher.
Yeah, we actually have to control now because EU has 15, we have 10, and Moldova has 25. So we now control our branches on the border with Poland and Moldova to make sure that there are no re-exports. So far, there are not. I mean, there are Ukrainians who flew to Poland, for example, right? So refugees that flew to Poland, so they still have, for example, Ukrainian flag for their goods sold in on Etsy. So hypothetically, it's not re-export, but we actually now will know because they cannot ship from Poland. They can only ship for Ukraine. We'll see if there's any increase from that perspective.
Yeah, no, fascinating. What has been? I mean, you talked about obviously the challenge with just logistical challenge, but what about the just the management challenge that you've had with managing the team during the war? Like, how do you keep spirits up? I'd imagine, right, to just continue working and what. And yeah, let's start with there. Like, how have you approached that?
Very direct. I've changed probably 3 teams during the war. Really? Sometimes people get tired. Sometimes they don't perform. Sometimes it's a new phase in the company. So, for example, during the war, during the last 2 years, in 24 months, we opened 22 months. In 22 months, we opened 24 new sorting centers. Full automatic.
Wow.
And we fully automated parcel sorting. So we opened 2 international sorting centers.
In the last 24 months?
In the last 24 months. So 1 per month. And then once you move toward that, then you need people who maybe know better about AI. So they can, now we're fully automatic, we have data. Let's see how we can better do scenarios, how we can better use transport. So it's not because people are, bad or, it's just the new phase in the company. And then you need our international team, they know how to make things happen. So they're driven by the clients. They know the stories I tell you. Sometimes you don't need any more motivation than to help the people, because when your friends or someone will ask, so what did you do? And you can always say, well, you know what, I help these people to survive, or I help these people to maintain their business. So it's something that gives you, everyone talks about to have a purpose, right? So that's the easiest part in my job. There's lots of purpose that we help people to deliver and to do. So it's tough mentally, especially now. It's now year 4, where a lot of the management works pretty much no vacations or times off, and my phone is always on because I have to receive messages, react to what's happening. That was another challenge that I did not see coming. That you have to push things around to make it happen. Well, now we've done it. We can move to other things to prepare for winter, because no one knows how the winter. I have to prepare, so if Russia hits a heating station, then how the computers will work, because they don't work if the temperature falls below 5 degrees Celsius. So
wouldn't even think about that.
So there's a lot of technical issues, like we talk about Starlinks. We use a lot of them, but Starlinks don't work if you switch on anti-drone air defense, because anti-drone air defense is based on jamming GPS signal, and Starlink is based on GPS signal.
So does it all of a sudden just stop working for you, and you don't know that
No, I mean, we obviously learn sometimes the hard way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you kind of rely on technology and then, it doesn't work.
Also, that's not working.
It doesn't work. Or at the beginning, now our infrastructure in Ukraine obviously is more adaptable. Like, for example, when Russia attacked energy infrastructure, that was hard because, cell towers were now without electricity. No one building cell towers to withstand, lack of energy for like 6-12 hours. Or internet providers. Well, they're better even that as well. So again, now they're better. They also have generators. They have fuel supply. We have more than 2,000 generators, but that means we have to create the entire totally separate IT system to monitor, because you have to replace oil every 50 hours after generator is running. So you can imagine when you have 2,000 of them, you have to have a separate system where you monitor how many hours each of them work, having oil in place, having people coming to replace the oil, to have the fuel for the generator, to have the fuel reserve, and just in case the roads get blocked or the bridge gets blown up or something. So you just keep on going. And, as I said, I grew up in New York, and I remember There's a famous, how New York sort of get rebuilt itself. It's a theory of broken windows, so you don't have broken window. It's the same with us. We are sort of often provider of the last resort, and the goal always is, if there is a night bombing, if it's at all humanly possible, let's open the branch by midday next day, so people can see we're working. So
they know
we know they're working. It gives a purpose to our employees. Get up after a very hard night in the morning to go to work to restore the branch. So it's a lot about psychology. I think it's out of all the skills, psychology is probably the key, aside of legal, obviously. Out of all that you need to understand how people think. I once a month I'm always on the front lines, because I need to understand how they think. They need support. They value me being there more than like any money.
So you get out often then on the front lines and with your team. And
we had the rule when Ukraine was freeing up the cities. I was always the first with the team, because they need support. They need to be assurance. Sometimes we went overboard. We went to one of the branches in Kharkiv region. Then we figured out there was like 400 kilos of trotyl there. We didn't notice it. I mean, it's just becomes like kind of part of life, but it is important. It's like, small things do matter. For example, I went when there is United Nations packages distributed to people once, territory was deoccupied. And when I noticed people are under stress in those areas, what people do under stress, they want chocolate. But there is no chocolate in those packages, so we quickly get the chocolate up, and people and soldiers were buying. Again, small things, but they matter a lot. You cannot sit in the office and direct people on the front lines. I actually, I know it was a hot topic in the US, remote work. I actually shut it down on July 1st, 2022, 3 months after the beginning of the war. I said, look, you cannot sit in somewhere outside of the country and direct people on the front lines.
Yeah.
Because, it's, to me, it's, I joke with my wife, my family in New York, and I said, look, if I would look at TV or Telegram channels, there are more people killed in New York than in Kiev every day. So if you would manage the company based on what you see on the news cycle, you would make a lot of wrong decisions. You would piss off your team because they're on the ground and you're somewhere making some idiotic decisions. So I canceled the remote work and I said, you want to manage the team? You will be with the team and you will be making decisions with them. So, and that's probably was the best decision, what allowed us to continue to operate.
That's so for a little bit there, you were doing remote work, and then
for the first 3 months, because we actually on purpose separated in different locations, so the company would. That's actually when I realized 40 people could manage the company of 30,000. And after that, we began layoffs of a large scale.
You could be profitable here,
extremely. So when I joined Ukrposhta, we had 76,000 people. We're now down to 30.
Yeah.
And the management team is down from 7,000 to 2,300.
Wow. And you're growing.
Yeah. So, for example, we had 850 accountants. We're down to 51. AI does a great job in accounting.
That's unbelievable.
So we fully digitalized. So there are no papers in Ukrposhta. Everything is on mobile app for employees. They take reserve vacations. They do inventory. They sign documents. So everything is fully digitalized, all electronic, and we don't use any papers.
Well, I love the work in person. Our team's all in person in St. George. So when you see us at night or depends on morning for us or whatever. Yeah, our team is they're in the office and traveling everywhere. But so how is you? I want to actually talk a little bit about now other posts, right? Because you get to observe and you're meeting them now at the UPU and they're asking you, how did you move so fast? And I'm sure it's not just with us. You're moving fast with everything. You've digitized everything. You're growing. It's like you're running the post like a founder would run a business, right? And honestly, as I'm listening to you, I'm like, this is it's just fascinating. So what's some of your advice, when posts are talking to you about how did you move so quickly, or how do you move so quickly, and what's the advice that you're giving?
I think they're in a better position so they can think, and they have a lot of time to think. We stop, you can, lose a lot of revenue or life or something. we have to build cushion. I mean, tomorrow Racket can hit one of our sorting centers. Imagine the losses, right? So we always have to be one step ahead. Russian cost us over $55-60 million in losses. Just, I mean, so we lose on average one branch per week. And one truck per week. So you can imagine
from a bomb.
From a bombs, bombs, drones, everything. So including central branches in Kyiv, everything. So we just lost last week branch in Kyiv. So given that you have to be resilient, we don't get anything from the state. We're fully self-funded. So if compared to all the European posts, we don't receive any subsidies. So you have to be resilient and you have to have the drive to deliver. And moreover, during the war, people do expect delivery next day. Why? They don't know where they're going to be next day. Or soldiers on the front lines.
Good point. Yes.
I was in the last month, the one before that, I was on the front lines and I see that there's like box that looks international that we delivered, I think from China, to front lines. And the soldier comes and pick it up and I said, so if you don't mind me asking, what is it? He's like, well, it's a 3D printer we ordered so we can print the details for the drone so we don't have to wait for replacement on the front lines.
Yeah, they are relying on you, not just for medicine, but for actual...
and you understand that your work is important. You cannot really screw it up. Any mistake can be costly, and again, you have to stay one step ahead of the game. So my advice to them: be just less bureaucratic. Think that tomorrow can be something difficult, but it's hard to change that mentality. Understand when you're very comfortable. And also, I mean, I have US legal background. I understand how risk management works. I had very tough discussions with my board. It's like, what is the risk estimate of Russian rocket hitting your Kharkiv sorting center? I was like, I don't know, 50-50. It can either hit or won't. I mean, what else you want me to do? Put an estimate on human life? What are the chances it gets killed? It's like, I don't know, 50-50. It's, maybe closer to the front lines is more. Further it's less, but a lot of the standard corporate legal risk management, corporate governance procedures are not built for that. I get pushed to establish management board, and I was like, well, how do you expect me to make decisions? Sometimes I have 5 minutes to make a decision. Do you expect me to get the board and get everyone signed? That doesn't work. So I believe lots of procedures are just not built for the war. Let's put it this, or for the extreme conditions. Imagine I would have to go to my board every time we revise our agreement said, well, can you have independent legal opinion on what if it's structured this way or that way, and what would the National Bank think? Or, I mean, we would never get it done, which is probably why we are the first ones to sign. So I think the more entrepreneurial nature always helps. And as you mentioned in the beginning, it's all about mindset, right? If you have the mindset, we just have to make it happen. That basically sets the rules. If you have the mindset, well, I mean, there's a bunch of people that look at, and this and that, and let's get the memo, and let's get independent opinion, and, let's get another meeting. I think a lot of the corporations kind of try and drown in those kind of environments.
It has been interesting, though, that the time pressure that came from this executive order, there have been posts that have been able to bypass and take more risk than they ever would have, right? Like Royal Mail, they basically, put in so much risk for the first flights because the airline wasn't sure what was going on, and they just stuck their neck outs on everything and just said, we're going to go. And then Canada Post, they've never collected any duties ever. And so they're like, and the amount is just a totally different scenario in Canada, like trying to collect from businesses and individuals. And they've even said, they're like, we've never moved this fast on anything. And I had a recent agreement with a large post too in Europe, and they're just going through with legal. And when it was over, she said, I've never signed an agreement that fast. So there is a lot of pressure, time pressure, and you had more than that too, right? You have businesses that are relying on you. I mean, it's a huge, like you said, it's 25% of your revenue, and it's amazing that you're growing. That still just blows my mind that you're growing as a business.
And it's $1 billion of their revenue.
Wow.
It's $1 billion of their revenue. So,
that's super important. To the entire economy.
And imagine these people, and sometimes in very remote places or very close to front lines. That's the only thing they can do. We take that business away tomorrow. They will be relying on state aid, or mentally it's hard. Again, for the veterans, it's important because once they're back, they're not relying on social welfare. They're relying on the business. It's more important to feel like you're part of the business than you're relying on something.
Have things settled down enough? How is your volume right now compared to a month ago into the US? Do you know?
We'll see. There was a short period of time where because we were still dealing, we could not announce fast enough. That's why I was pushing my team. Said between you tell people everything is in order, and their act doesn't happen overnight. So I think we will see a small drop last week of August, but because that's like a delay impact from the middle of August. But I think in September we'll see the uptick. Actually, we already do. So
that's amazing. Well, no, this is great. It's definitely been a pleasure working with your entire team and getting to know you. Any last thoughts or anything that I didn't cover that you wish I would have asked?
No, first of all, I want to thank your team. I'm honestly saying, during my meetings now with the Post, it's the first time for a very, very long time we found the company that was moving at the same pace as us. We got so used to, let's get meeting after meeting after meeting. It gets to the point. So, for example, we got a loan from European Bank. On really good conditions. We want to thank them for their support. For the equipment to open the sorting centers. So the procurement procedures and negotiations procedure are so long that with our own money we opened all the 24 centers, and the procurement was over 1 month before they opened the last one. So we got so used to such exorbitant deadlines that you have to build it, all the inefficiencies in the world. So again, hats off to your team for working with us 24/7. It's actually helped because we have a time difference. So by the time we would go to sleep, your team would pick up, then we would pick it up.
Yeah,
so
it might have been an advantage. We were working around the clock, and Kellen on our team, who I know is working closely with your team, has just been outstanding at making sure that everything happened and making sure that communication was there. But hats off to you and your team.
I think stress helps. Let me give you another example similar to what we have. When the war started, there's obviously curfew and roadblocks. But people still expected delivery. So what we did, I had a friend of mine who was running Ukrainian railways, and we got together one day in Lviv and said, look, remember there was some postal trains? He was like, maybe you can find some postal carriage, and let's see if we can start moving mail by rail, because rail moves overnight. And in 5 days, we relaunched moving mail by rail. 5 days.
And you've never had mail by rail
for 21 years. It was never done in Ukraine. So we did some IT work. We prepared the sort of sorting centers that were historically close to railways. They prepared the railway cars, and in 5 days from our launch in Lviv to launch of the train, and we moved over 20 million pieces of parcels.
That is unbelievable.
By rail, which allows you can go overnight from Lviv to Kharkiv across the country, literally overnight, when everything was not working, and we delivered. So I joked that it was, until our work, it was the fastest startup in the history. And I said, look, if we go by the standard procedures, engineers, risk management, analysis, can the parcel blow up the car, and everything possible that can go wrong, we would never be able to do. So, but if you have that mentality, we just have to get it done. And then, because it was so successful, we tried to use it to take the parcels to Europe, because it would be a really good business, and we would move faster than by the truck through it. In 2 years, we didn't get the permission. Not technical, but just permission to move. There was a discussion: the parcel is a cargo or it's passenger, or because we connected the postal truck to passenger trains because they're on schedule, which allows you to exactly know when the parcel leaves and comes. We would not be able to do it with cargo trains. So, but that's again, that shows once you have a stressful scenario, you think on your feet.
Yeah.
And you make stuff happen. So I don't know if you have to have more stress scenarios in life. I do believe it's a good thing for the companies time to time to have it, because it allows the CEO or the management to see how good is the team, how can they react to actually a stressful situation, because lots of people can work under regular conditions, but I think the success of the company is when you can show what you can do under really extreme conditions.
Well, I think you're right. I think you're I'm glad your wife was wrong that you were able to last longer than 6 months. I think that's good for you. I think it's great for the people of Ukraine, and I think they're just lucky to have you at the helm. And so, thank you very much for talking with me today. This was fascinating. Appreciate it, Igor.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.